Welcome to Time of Death. This video is for informational purposes only and in no way meant to glorify or condone violence. In today's video, we'll be discussing the murder of Keith Hardy. Hardy died from a shooting on the 300 block of North Willowbrook Avenue in Compton at around 7 p.m. on Monday, June 4th, 2007. Jimmy Lee Burden was subsequently arrested and charged with the murder. The following is the evidence at trial. Desiree was 17 years old at the time of the shooting incident on the evening of June 4th, 2007. She lived in Compton and was familiar with the Compton Transit Center, which was located on Willowbrook Avenue across from the Greyhound station. She was at the transit center at the time of the shooting. It was still light outside. Desiree arrived at the transit center after a train trip from Carson, and she had her bicycle with her. Desiree walked her bicycle from the train platform towards the bus station. As she approached the stop sign, an African-American male, similar to her age, came up and asked, "Can I see your bike real fast?" She replied she had to go, walked away, and decided to ride home northbound on Willowbrook because she had just missed the bus. She had seen the same male a handful of times before, standing in a group and offering to sell day passes. The male rode his bicycle across the street toward the Greyhound station. Desiree crossed the street and was mounting her bicycle when she heard gunshots. She looked in the direction of the gunshots towards the transit center and saw the victim, Hardy, an African-American male, laying on the ground. She believed Hardy was a member of the Nutty Block Compton Crips. She had previously seen him at the train station offering to sell train tickets or bus passes. Shortly before the shooting, Desiree had seen Hardy standing with a group in front of the Greyhound station. Deputy Jose Racho and his partner responded to the transit center at approximately 7 p.m. Within 5 minutes, Deputy Racho saw fire department personnel treating Hardy, who was lying face down in front of the transit center's entrance. Hardy was transported to the hospital and pronounced dead shortly thereafter from 2 gunshot wounds to his back, one of which fatally penetrated his vital organs. Hardy suffered abrasions to his cheek and knee and a laceration on his chin. There was a bullet lodged in the wall of the transit center near the victim. An examination of 2 bullets showed they were fired from the same weapon, either a .38 Special semi-automatic or a .357 Magnum revolver. When Detective Q. Rodriguez arrived at the shooting scene, the paramedics had cut away clothing from the victim and transported him to the hospital. Deputy John Orozco assisted other officers in containing the shooting scene and looking for witnesses. Desiree rode up to him on her bicycle. The deputy took her name and address and asked if she knew what had happened. She responded, a little bit, and went home. Later that evening, police officers went to her home and brought her to the station, accompanied by her father. She told her interviewing officer, Detective Sean McCarthy, that the male who asked to use her bike was a twin. She described him as being dark-skinned and could tell the twins apart because one had a scar on his face. She had seen him and the victim at the station before, selling day passes on the platform. Desiree had heard stories that the twins were crazy and to look out for them. Desiree heard at least 2 gunshots, looked over, and saw Hardy fall to the ground. Desiree was interviewed again on July 31st, 2007 by Detective McCarthy and Rodriguez. At that time, she recalled hearing someone in the group of males with the defendant say, "This expletive is in our hood. You know he got us fucked up. Somebody gotta do it." The group of males argued about who would take the gun before one of them handed it to a tall, skinny youth who was always with the guy with the scar. A few hours later, the detective asked Desiree to view photographs to identify that person. On July 9th, 2007, at 10 p.m., Deputy Oscar Calderon arrested co-defendant Darius DeJuan Oliver at the Metro Blue Line station. Oliver was standing by the bicycle racks. When he saw the officers, he dropped the firearm and fled on the bicycle. The firearm was a .25 caliber Raven semi-automatic handgun. Oliver waived his Miranda rights. He denied having a gun, but admitted being an active member of the Acacia Block Compton Crips. Oliver's moniker was Tech. Oliver said that the defendant, who had previously been arrested, was a member of the Almond Block Crips. The two knew each other and got along, having grown up together in the same neighborhood. Detective Henry Aguilar took part in the search of the defendant's residence on August 8, 2007, in which the officers recovered 5 .38 Special bullets from the garage, and Detective Hedge found gang photographs. Detective Rodriguez testified that the defendant was placed in an isolation jail cell equipped with a recording device. Render was placed in the cell with the defendant. After some time, Render was replaced with Oliver and subsequently replaced with the defendant's twin brother, James Burden. Their conversations were recorded surreptitiously. At one point during a conversation between the defendant and Oliver, the latter said, quote, "He heard the Greyhound do got cameras." The defendant agreed, adding that he had just talked to Loco and the police found bullets in his house. Oliver asked, how the fuck they know all of us was involved in that? The defendant replied, somebody snitched at the train station. On September 27, 2007, Detectives McCarthy and Rodriguez interviewed the defendant, who admitted seeing Hardy at the train station. The defendant said that Render was his other crime partner. The defendant and his brother are from Almond Block Crips. The Acacia Block Crips and the Nutty Block Crips are enemies. The victim was a member of the Nutty Block Crips. Defendant said he did not see the shooting because he was at the Greyhound station at the time. The defendant admitted being with Oliver that day. It was Oliver who gave the handgun to the defendant after the shooting. The defendant took it home and Oliver later took it back. The defendant insisted he did not shoot Hardy or see the shooting, but believed Oliver was the shooter. The defendant admitted being on a bicycle, but he was behind the bus station and heard 5 gunshots. The weapon was a brown and black .38 caliber handgun. According to the defendant's statement, Oliver admitted shooting Hardy because the two were members of rival gangs. At one point, the defendant admitted riding his bicycle towards Hardy and saying, "What's up?" But the defendant rode back before the shots were fired. He rode away because he refused to assist Oliver in the shooting. Detective Hedge testified as a gang expert. The Acacia Block Crips is a Compton street gang with approximately 80 members. Its territory is adjacent to the Compton Transit Center, which is neutral gang territory. The gang commits narcotic sales, assaults, carjackings, and murder. Oliver had a tattoo that insults the Nutty Block Compton Crips. Following the trial, the jury found the defendant, Jimmy Burden, guilty of the second-degree murder of Keith Hardy, including a gang enhancement. The court sentenced the defendant to 15 years to life. Keith Hardy was 36 years old at the time of death.